Welcome to episode 37 of the Underdog Sports Baseball Show. I can confidently say that in my 4 years of doing college radio and I guess at this point, 8 or 9 months of doing this podcast, this is the first bi-coastal show that I've ever done that will be airing for the masses. I'm doing this from my buddy Cole's bedroom in Los Angeles. Bryce, I can only assume, is doing this from his couch on his East Village apartment. Is that correct?
When you put it that way, it seems like I'm doing it from a very fancy place. But my East Village apartment is not very, or would I say very fancy?
Well, you know what?
There is a new piece of artwork, though. There's a new piece of artwork in my East Village apartment.
What'd you get?
I don't like to throw people's names out there on this podcast. But a certain lady painted a picture of Jimmy Sandwich for me.
Wait, painted a picture of what?
Jimmy Clendenin's 9-pound sandwich. Someone painted a picture of that one for me. And it was very nice of her.
All right, very, very interesting. I'm now have something to look forward to coming back to the cold weather for, to see that painting in your apartment. Got a quick show for you today. We're going to recap the MVPs and the Cy Young Awards. We're going to talk the new manager out in San Francisco. Giants going with Gabe Kapler. Always nice to see another Jewish manager in the ranks in baseball.
He's the same Jewish manager.
I know, but we were looking at potentially, though, once Ausmus and Kapler got fired. I mean, the Jewish population amongst baseball managers could have really spiked for the worse this year.
It could have gone down from, 2 to 0?
Exactly. That's a spike when it's not a big number to begin with.
Yeah, that's a lot. We still took 100% decrease. No, whatever, we're fine.
Yeah. So we're going to recap the awards, go into that. Going to discuss who accepted qualifying offers and who did not. We have our first free agent signing of the offseason, or I should say our first big free agent signing. An all-star has changed teams in the National League. Pirates re-upped with a new general manager, Ben Cherington. And we're going to close it out by talking about some more news in this Astros cheating scandal that is brewing. But first, as always, we are going to do our Bovada Sportsbook Pick of the Week. As we've been doing it the first few weeks of the offseason, we are going to go 3 teams at a time and look at their odds to win the World Series as it stands. The top 6 teams in order per Bovada right now are the Astros, Dodgers, Yankees, Braves, Red Sox, and Nationals. We have covered all 6 of those teams. So now we will go 7 through 9. And again, these are all teams that I would say would be considered playoff teams based on their odds. So the first one is at number 7, Bovada has the Cleveland Indians at plus 1,500 to win the World Series. Personally, I think plus 1,500 for the Indians is fair. I think until you know what this team is going to do with Lindor, it's really hard to say what their team's going to look like next season. But I think you can expect a big bounce back year from Jose Ramirez once he's healthy. You have him, Lindor, Santana in the middle of the order, hitting 2 through 4. Kluber's going to be back healthy. I mean, any team with Kluber, Clevenger, and Shane Bieber, the starting rotation is going to be epic. If you can get anything out of Carlos, I was going to say, if you can get Carlos Carrasco back healthy post-cancer, I mean, that's just the gravy. I think we're at the point where the Indians are always going to be that 90-win team. I think their window of the upper echelon may have passed. But again, I think they are a playoff contender for sure. What are your thoughts on the Indians at plus 1,500?
They're always tough. The Indians are tough to gauge at plus 1,500. I'd stay off that bet because there's too much uncertainty going forward. Like you said, you don't know what they're going to do with Lindor. They were always rumored to look to trade Kluber. And if you get rid of those guys, then this is not a World Series caliber team. But if they bring back everybody, that 1, 2, 3, 4 in the rotation is as good as it gets in baseball. Francona may be the best manager in baseball. What are they going to do with Puig? Any rumors about Puig going back there? They need another bat. With or without Lindor, I still think that lineup is missing a bat.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I'm getting commentary.
From Cole?
I'm getting commentary. So Cole's actually in India. That's why I'm doing this from his room. But Sam, who I used to do the baseball show with in college, he can hear my loud voice because these walls are relatively thin. And his take is that Carrasco should move to the bullpen. Truthfully, I don't hate it because they did develop Plesac at the end of the year. They have so many rotation arms, and if Carrasco could be that Andrew Miller type guy for them, that to me could be one of the weapons that they've really missed these past few seasons. But I do agree with you with the bat. I mean, it's just a matter of if you're trying to save as much money as possible to bring back a Lindor, is it worth trying to bring Puig back, even if it's a contract that's really probably shouldn't go deeper than maybe like 3 for 42?
I mean, when you look at the Indians last year, they still managed to win 90 games, and they were missing. And I mean, the piece they're missing is in Houston. Michael Brantley they should have done everything in their power to keep Michael Brantley.
Yep, 100%. Before we go into the next two teams, I'm just looking ahead a little bit. One egregious thing that I see, in my opinion, is that the Indians are plus 1,507, and Bovada has this team 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So the Minnesota Twins won 101 games last year, and Bovada has them with the 13th best odds to win the World Series at plus 2,500. They're going to have Odorizzi back on top of the rotation. There's a spoiler alert. He accepted the qualifying offer. They have Jose Barrios. I mean, that team, for the most part, is going to be intact. Nelson Cruz is back. They're hopefully going to get a healthy year of Byron Buxton. I don't get how you almost have that team in the middle of the pack to win the World Series.
Well, I think it's because, like, it's pretty fair. It's obvious that Bovada doesn't think they're real. They look like the team on paper, and they don't see that superstar name. They don't see – I guess Barrios has the highest upside rotation, but he hasn't proven it long enough. So last year could have been a flash. It could have been one of those just magical seasons where everything worked, everything clicked, and the year of the homer they hit the most. If that's kind of that's a replicable strategy for other teams. And I mean, so I wouldn't take the Twins. What does Bovada have the Twins at?
Plus 2,500. I would throw a 10 spot on that.
I mean, a 10 spot on that's not terrible if you're okay with losing $10.
Fair enough. Number 8, Bovada at number 8 has the St. Louis Cardinals at plus 1,800. Cardinals last year won 91 games, won the NL Central, got swept in the NLCS by the World Series champion Nationals. But personally, I'm okay with the Cardinals here. I think they are a top 10 team. They brought Adam Wainwright back in the back of the rotation. I think if they bring Ozuna back, this could move up a little bit just because I think he was the big protection that they needed for Paul Goldschmidt. But again, I mean, this team between Jack Flaherty, Daniel Ponce de Leon, I mean, they have so many good young starters. That's all the Cardinals do is they breed starting pitching. They still have Yachty to anchor them defensively. Colton Wong and Paul DeJong really made the next step. I think I'm okay with saying that the Cardinals are like a back-end top 10 team in baseball.
Yeah, they won the division last year. They won what we all consider to be the best division in baseball last year. And Schultz just coming off the manager of the year thing. He has that clubhouse turned around. It's the clubhouse culture in St. Louis is positive. That's a place that people want to be. That's a place where players are happy. It seemed to be getting better ever since Schultz took over halfway through last season. I think that's a bet. I like that bet. But again, you don't know how the Cubs are going to respond to the new manager. The Pirates, I mean, depending on how this Astros thing breaks up, the Pirates seem to be the most dysfunctional organization in baseball at the moment. A lot of it's out of like the realm of what we cover on the show, but they're a mess. The Brewers should be very good again. The Cubs have a good lineup, a new manager. Reds maybe this is the year the Reds finally put something together, but we've been saying that for a long time now.
No, but honestly, the more we just say this out loud, I would not sleep on the Reds to win the NL Central. Not so much because of their strength. Well, I'm going to get to their strengths in a second, but I think everything you just outlined where, the Cardinals are solid but never like crazy spectacular. Cubs could be changing, some players with Baez and Bryant due for extensions. Who knows? One of them can get moved, and who knows how they respond to David Ross. Pittsburgh is just a clusterfuck. The Brewers have really pieced together the past 2 Septembers. I mean, if you're a Reds fan, you have Iglesias and Amir Garrett to close out the games. You have a good 1-2 punch in the back of the bullpen. Trevor Bauer, Luis Castillo, and Sonny Gray, I mean, that could be a potential all-star starting rotation trio. And then assuming you get Votto to bounce back at all to go along with Suarez in that lineup in the middle.
Suarez.
Yeah, I can see the
Suarez.
Reds. Suarez is a casual 50-homer hitting third baseman, which you don't see a lot anymore.
He's the most casual 50 hitting. What is he? 50 homer guy in the league, or he's on 40 the last couple of years.
I would say him and Soler.
Oh, my boy.
Your boy.
I love Soler.
Which did you bring up last week that Soler got robbed for the Silver Slugger? He came up on my Twitter feed today, and I was like, I don't know if we gave Soler any love last week.
We did not, but we'll save that for. I mean, I could just guessing the Bovada Royals World Series odds probably somewhere in the 25 to 30 range.
Let me count how many zeros are here. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so they are plus 100,000, the second worst in baseball.
I mean, that's a $10 fun bet if you really think that Soler is out on a mission, because he was the home run champ in the AL. You should be rewarded with the Silver Slugger. But we'll save that for, I guess,
if you love Soler, if you love Soler and you think Mike Matheny can change the culture, go on the Royals plus 100,000. And last team, number 9, that we'll cover today, Bovada has the Rays at plus 1,800. This to me seems perfect. I mean, the Rays seem like a team that's going to win 93 or more games every year, get stuck in the wild card game, and then from there it's a crapshoot. So I like the Rays exactly where they are here.
Yeah, they're a team that you put your 10 on the Rays early and then hope they get to 93. Because we spoke about Boston. We've already spoken about Boston, right? We thought they were absurdly high on this list.
We did.
I think I would feel much more comfortable with a bet on the Rays and the Red Sox to win the World Series in 2020.
Yeah, I could live with that.
I just think everything. Tampa's trending up, Boston's trending down. Turnover up top in Boston. I think they're probably gonna keep Mookie, but Mookie on a contract year, you don't know how people respond to contract years. So I feel much more confident in Tampa. They'll get a full season out of Snell coming in 2020, hopefully. Glasnow should be better. They're good. That rotation is good.
They're legit. And they got Shane Baz, their top pitching prospect, who was the third piece in the Meadow and Tyler Glasnow acquisition. He's on the way. And Brent Honeywell, who was the top pitching prospect in baseball, he's coming off of Tommy John surgery. So reinforcements are on the way for Tampa, where that rotation could be even better. But before we get into the actual baseball news, episode 37, for the New York Yankees, 37, we have a retired number, Hall of Fame manager Casey Stengel. He wore the number from 1949 to 1960 as the Yankee manager. Stengel is best known. From 49 to 53, the Yankees won 5 straight World Series under his watch. I believe they won 7 total under Stengel. And prior to him, 47 and 48, Hall of Fame manager Bucky Harris won 37. Bryce, I don't know how much you've looked up Casey Stengel, but he was a baseball guy who loved antics, and I think he would very quickly become your favorite baseball manager ever.
Even more so than Brian Price after his all-time epic F-bomb tirade?
Even more so than Brian Price, because Stengel had the highest of the highs, winning 5 in a row with the Yankees, and then was the first manager of the Mets, which was as bad as it gets.
I like that. Yeah, Stengel, great career. That's a number that should be retired. How often do you see manager numbers retired? Because the Yanks have at least 3, right?
The Yanks have
Billy Martin retired?
Well, that's what I was going to say. We'll call it 2.5. Stengel and Torrey were retired strictly as managers. And I don't think Billy Martin's number gets retired if he isn't a manager, but he also won a bunch of World Series rings as a second baseman as a player for the Yankees.
You ever watch the MLB Network thing on Billy Martin?
Yes.
Interesting guy, Billy Martin.
Very interesting guy.
That's the guy that loved antics.
Billy, as a player, won 4 World Series with the Yankees.
That's a lot. I'm at 0 myself.
Yep, you and me both. But a guy who does have a World Series and now has his second career Cy Young Award is Justin Verlander. He was voted by the Baseball Writers Association of America as the 2019 AL Cy Young Award winner. He had a total voting points of 171. Teammate Garrett Cole finished second with 159 points. Specifically, Verlander got 17 first and 13 second place votes. Cole got 13 first and 17 second-place votes. And as Jason Stark pointed out, I mean, this vote was so close that if two voters had just flipped their votes, it would have been a tie. Charlie Morton finished third, Shane Bieber fourth, Lance Lynn at fifth, Eduardo Rodriguez sixth, and Mike Minor in eighth, with Lucas Giolito in seventh. Verlander, 36, won the Cy Young Award in 2011 with the Tigers. He and Cole became the first pair of teammates to finish first and second on the ballot. For the AL Cy Young Award, it's been done 4 times. In the NL, Randy Johnson and Curt Schilling in 01 and 02, Don Newcomb and Sal Magzi in 1956, and Mike Marshall and Andy Messersmith in 1974. Quick tangent from Verlander. Have you ever seen Mike Marshall's numbers when he won the Cy Young with the Dodgers in 1974, Bryce?
Nah, I must have missed those. I don't know how I missed that.
Well, I don't know. Maybe it was just something that, like, obviously, yes, you're not supposed to just know it, but he is a relief pitcher. When he won the Cy Young in 74, he pitched in 106 games.
Yeah, they're that again.
No, I mean, that'll never happen again. Verlander.
You think a relief pitcher ever wins the Cy Young again? Or how would a relief pitcher have to win the Cy Young? What would
I don't know. I don't know, honestly. I mean, they would have to have a season.
Save record and like 15 Ks per 9?
I guess, but I don't see anybody ever getting above 62 saves, which K-Rod has the record. Like, I think now with specialization and, you know, teams using the opener and this and that, like, so few teams even have set closers anymore.
Yeah, it's a lot of committee back there. It's tough. I mean, if a guy like Rivera can never win the Cy Young, which is a different discussion, but
and don't forget who did. And Eric
Gagne.
Eric Gagne does, but such is life. Verlander's 21st pitcher to
Gagne's on
Canadian juice. I don't know if that counts for anything, but it does in my mind.
Is he the only? I mean, I'm trying to think. Is he the only Canadian that's ever been caught with the juice? Probably not.
I mean, I'd have to really go through and look, but I'm going to say probably not.
Didn't he do something? Wasn't he on the Team Canada in like 2015?
Probably.
I mean, it's the juice. You can pitch forever.
Speaking of Team Canada, did you see Team U.S. has so far failed to qualify for the Olympics in the 2020 baseball game? Or for baseball in the 2020 games?
They lost their manager.
Well, they also lost to Mexico in the finals of the qualifier, so we'll see.
Well, that could be an absolute.
That could be a disaster if we don't make it. But back
We're
to
doing
Verlander.
World Baseball stuff. Oh, can we get one more take on the World Baseball? Piazza is officially the manager of Team Italy.
Which is good. I mean, the last time he ran a team was an Italian soccer team. I don't know if you got a chance to read that article, and he ran it into the ground. So hopefully that doesn't happen to the Italian baseball team.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, some of the countries that have teams, I don't know that baseball is particularly popular in Italy.
No,
I don't think it is. I went to Italy once. Had a great pasta dish. Had some pizza. That was great. I was young, but no one was bringing up Piazza.
Yeah, I'm sure not. So Verlander, 21st pitcher to win multiple Cys. During the regular season, he led all starting pitchers in wins, games started, innings pitched, and WHIP. 2.58 ERA and 300 strikeouts were second in the league to Garrett Cole. He had his 3,000th career strikeout, 200 career postseason strikeouts through his third no-hitter. And by going 8 years between winning Cy Young awards, that is the longest span between Cy Young wins in the history of the award. His .803 WHIP this year was the best WHIP amongst qualifying pitchers over the last 100 seasons, second only to Pedro Martinez in 2000. I mean, again, I think you and I have kind of had the same perspective this whole award season when it came to Cole and Verlander. It was just a matter of opinion. I mean, I think Cole had the better season, but Verlander, with everything we just discussed, the 3,000 strikeouts, the no-hitter, this and that, he had the narrative. We hate to use the phrase he was due to win an award, but if anyone was due to win another Cy Young award, it was Justin Verlander. And,
we use the phrase he's due all the time. We love to use that phrase.
I know, but we use it in the term of, like, our degenerate gambling. We don't use it in the phrase of, like, such and such is due to win this. You know what I mean? Unless due to win this is, oh, the Giants are due to win this game.
I don't think the Giants are ever due to win any game anymore. But that's not the point. The big takeaway with this if there was ever a case when you could argue for a tie, this was the time. A tie here would have been nice for the teammates. But Verlander, he deserved it. He probably deserved a couple more over these last 8 years because he's been so good for so long. So I guess happy for Verlander.
Yep, and over in the National League, we have a pitcher repeating as a back-to-back Cy Young winner. Jacob deGrom has now won 2 straight Cy Young awards. You know, I knew deGrom was going to win because I think statistically he was the best pitcher in the National League. But the fact that he got 29 of 30 first-place votes, I mean, this was as blowout as you can get without being a unanimous winner. Ryu finished second with 88 points. Scherzer finished third with 72. Jack Flaherty fourth, Strasburg fifth, and also receiving votes were Mike Soroka, Sonny Gray, Kershaw, Walker Buehler, Kirby Yates, and Patrick Corbin. DeGrom, 31, went 11-8, 2.43 ERA, 255 strikeouts, and 204 innings from the Mets this year. He actually won fewer games last year en route to the Cy Young Award, but both were the lowest win totals among starting pitchers to win the award. For those keeping track at home, he has now won 2 Cy Young Awards with 21 total wins. He's the 20th pitcher to win multiple Cy Young Awards and one of 7 to win back-to-back awards in the NL, joining Greg Maddux, Randy Johnson, Sandy Koufax, Kershaw, Tim Lincecum, and Max Scherzer, and joins R.A. Dickey, Dwight Gooden, and Tom Seaver as Mets to have won the Cy Young Award. Before I go into some specifics, I mean, I think we both agree it was deGrom's award to lose, especially as Scherzer got hurt down the stretch. And
well, I think Scherzer getting hurt cost him the cost of the award.
Yeah, and I think Ryu, you know, had that 3-start stretch starting with that Yankee game in Los Angeles where his ERA was like 7, and that cost him. One thing you and I had discussed, though, do you think Steven Strasburg didn't get enough love for the Cy Young Award?
Yes. I think I've said a couple times now. I would have voted Strasburg because he was the best winner, and he pitched the most innings. He was the guy that you could give the ball to every 5 days all season long, and you would expect to win. Even though deGrom's great, and I know that there's mitigating factors to wins and losses, but when he was 11-8, Strasburg won 19 games and pitched the most.
Yeah, I mean, to touch on your point, deGrom has won 2 consecutive Cy Youngs with a 2.05 ERA over the past 2 seasons, and New York is 28-36 in a 64 starts. That's a .438 winning percentage. If you're a manager, you are so fired if you have that winning percentage.
And he was fired.
Correct.
He was fired.
Interestingly enough, given the lack of, real success that the team has had, the Mets now have 7 Cy Young Award winners, which is tied for the second most of any franchise in the history of the award. Only one team has more with 12. I don't know if you looked at the notes yet, but if not, do you know who that team is offhand?
I would guess Dodgers, but
it is the Dodgers indeed.
Yeah, well, Koufax has 4 and Kershaw has 3, and Gagne has 1. There's a second Gagne reference for you.
I mean, then you have Don Newcomb, Mike Marshall, who we talked about. They have 12. 12 is a big number. One crazy last stat about deGrom. He's one of 6 players ever to post consecutive seasons with at least 250 strikeouts and an ERA below 2.5. The other 5 pitchers are all in the Hall of Fame, and 4 of the 6 won consecutive Cy Young Awards. So just to put into perspective how great deGrom has been, despite the fact that the Mets are inept and can't take advantage of him.
Yeah, it's really pathetic. Hopefully Beltran fixes that, because if you have a guy dealing like this for what's really a 2-year stretch that you've only seen 5 times in the 100+ years of baseball, you have to win. I don't know how you're not winning 75% of these games seems low. Houston didn't lose with Cole on the mound from what felt like May to the end of the season.
Yeah, who knows though? Maybe they cheated.
Yeah, we'll get to that later.
So on the American League MVP side of things, Mike Trout, the best player in baseball, played in only 130 games this year. He pretty much missed the last 3 weeks of the season, and a lot of people thought that might cost him from finally winning his 3rd American League MVP award. But alas, the voters got it right. BBWA voted the Angels outfielder as the AL MVP with 17 of 30 first-place votes, which is pretty close for reference. Alex Bregman at 13 first-place votes. I think you and I looked. The spread was like 12 points when all was said and done.
Well, it was similar to the Verlander Cole thing. If 2 people switched over, we'd have a tie.
Yep. Trout, 28, did miss the final 3 weeks due to a foot injury, but he led the majors with a 438 OPS and a 185 adjusted OPS plus. Led the AL with a 645 slugging and 1.083 OPS, 45 homers, 104 runs, 104 RBIs, 110 runs scored, stole 11 bases. Fangraphs gave him the edge over all the competition in WAR at 8.6. Trout, who also won the award in 14 and 16, is the third Angel to snag the hard award, joining Don Baylor in 79 and Vlad Guerrero Sr. in 2004. How crazy is it that for the foreseeable future it's going to have to be Vlad Guerrero Sr.? It used to just say Vlad.
Yeah, it's a lot of extra syllables.
11th player to win. Oh, go ahead.
Vlad, he's one of those guys who always comes up on Sporkle quizzes, so I have to spell his name a lot. You know?
That's true.
That's a tough name to spell. Can you spell Guerrero without looking at it?
Guerrero, or is it I?
I was only asking for Guerrero, and yeah, you misspelled Vladimir. Just go with VLAD.
Vlad. Trout is the 11th player to win 3 MVP awards, joining Jimmy Fox, Joe D., Yogi, Mickey, A-Rod, Stan Musial, Roy Campanella, Mike Schmidt, Albert Pujols, and Barry Bonds.
Yeah, Pujols.
At 28, yep, Pujols. Then that was an organic Pujols also.
They're usually organic. There's a lot. I mean, if you win 3 MVPs, there's usually something to talk about with you. 3 MVPs is a lot.
At 28, he's the second youngest player to win 3 MVPs behind Stan Musial, who did it at 27. Barry Bonds is the only player who has now won more MVPs than Trout. He's won a whopping 7. Alex Bregman finished in a close second-place vote, followed by Marcus Semien, DJ LeMahieu, and Xander Bogaerts. And this is what I love looking at MVP, is seeing who else got down-ballot votes, and that includes Matt Chapman, Springer, Mookie Betts, Nelson Cruz, Gerrit Cole, Verlander, Devers, Jorge Polanco, Austin Meadows, Francisco Lindor, Carlos Santana, Gleyber, Eddie Rosario, Jorge Abreu, Max Kempler, J.D. Martinez, Jorge Soler. Who did I say?
You said Jorge Abreu.
Jose Abreu. That's because I was saying it and looking at your boy Jorge Soler. Matt Olson.
2 Soler and 2 Gagnes on this show.
And Yon Moncada. Interestingly enough, Gerrit Cole did get more MVP votes than Verlander. So, something to keep in the back of our minds, I guess.
Cole didn't lose from May on.
I agree.
That's valid.
Jeff Fletcher, Trout got 17 of 30 first-place votes. With Bregman getting the other 13, it was the closest race of any of the 7 years Trout finished first or second, which is amazing because it was Trout versus the Triple Crown, and everyone made a really big deal about that. All of the MVPs and Cy Youngs this year are all former Rookie of the Years, so that includes Mike Trout, DeGrom, Verlander, and spoiler alert, we're going to give it to you, NL MVP Cody Bellinger. It's the first time ever that every MVP and Cy Young winner in a single season is a former Rookie of the Year. No MVP had ever missed the last 3 weeks of any season before tonight, but as Jason Stark said, there is only one, Mike Trout. And from stats by stats, 2 of Mike Trout's 3 MVP awards have come after his team finished with a losing record that year. This year in 2016, joins Ernie Banks as the only player in baseball history to win multiple MVPs while playing on a losing team. To me, that speaks to Trout's greatness more than anything else. But any concluding thoughts on this? I think we both agree voters got it right.
No, I disagree with that. I think it should have been Bregman for the exact reason you just said. Trout's team is terrible, and he didn't play the rest of the season. He didn't play the last month of the season. In what way are you demonstrating value by losing all your games and then not playing? I think the vote was close. It was very close, which I was happy about, because I really think going forward that Trout's team is going to have to make the playoffs. This Angels team needs to make the playoffs next year because they have Madden as their manager. So Scioscia's great. Osmus is fine. 2 teams have hired him. Madden is one of the best guys in baseball, consensus top 5. If Trout and Madden together cannot get this team to the playoffs, no MVP for Trout.
That's fair enough. I think now that Trout's got his 3rd award, and anything other than this would be entering into historic territory. Yes, I agree.
What
does need to make the playoffs.
Does Bovada have any odds on how many MVPs he will have?
I don't think they have that, and they don't have awards futures yet.
If I set the over under 4.5. Would you take the over or under?
I would take the over.
5.5.
I would take the under. I think 5 is the number.
So you think he's got 2 more in him?
Yeah.
I mean, I think if that team makes the playoffs, I'm not saying that Trout isn't the best player in baseball. I think everybody.
If that team makes the playoffs, in theory, he's a lock to win it every year.
He should be the MVP every time that team makes the playoffs, but they haven't. So if they make the playoffs, he'll be the MVP. So you'd have to think eventually that team gets in.
I agree. Over in the National League, Cody Bellinger became the second player other than Boog Powell to appear in a Little League World Series and win the MVP award. He's your National League MVP, receiving 19 of 30 first-place votes. Have you ever been to big Boog Powell's in Baltimore?
Yeah, I have.
Good barbecue spot.
Yeah, we went when Simon and I took our trip. We went to the Phillies-Orioles game, the Nationals game in 24 hours.
Fantastic.
And there was a Mariners player by the name of Boog Powell in that Mariners Nationals game. So
yes, true.
Anybody else who went to the Orioles and Nats game back to back is lucky enough to have seen 2 Boog Powells in one day.
That's got to be a baseball record.
I mean, it's one of those records where no one's ever going to break it because no one's ever going to see 3 Boog Powells in a day, but it can be tied.
Bellinger, 24, was the NL Rookie of the Year 2 years ago and is now the MVP. In 2019, he had 305, 406, 629, 47 homers, 115 ribbies, 121 runs scored, and 15 steals. Among qualified position players in the NL, Bellinger and Christian Yelich led the NL, tied for the NL lead in WAR at 7.8, according to Fangraphs. Bellinger's strong year helped the Dodgers to a franchise record 106 wins. He's the first Dodger to win the award since Clayton Kershaw in 2014, joins Kirk Gibson, Steve Garvey, Koufax, and Maury Wills as Dodgers to win the award since the team moved to Los Angeles, and the 13th Dodger overall to win MVP. 18th player to win both the Rookie of the Year award and MVP. Voting breakdown, Yelich finished in second, Anthony Rendon third, Ketel Marte and Ronald Acuna rounded out the top 5. From there was Arenado, Pete Alonso, 6 and 7, and also receiving votes Freddie Freeman, Soto, DeGrom, Donaldson, Trevor Story, Jack Flaherty, JT Realmuto, Yasmani Grandal, Max Muncy, Strasburg, our boy Eugenio Suarez, Ryu, Goldschmidt, Colton Wong, Max Scherzer, and God bless the 10th place MVP vote because Kevin Pillar was on an MVP ballot, which is incredible. I was all in for Yelich on this one. I thought he did the most in his limited amount of time, but you're all about, players being there to play. And by that merit, Bellinger absolutely should have won the NL MVP. What were your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think Yelich, if Yelich finishes out September, Bellinger objectively had a pretty bad end to his season, but he was there. And
so to touch on that, he batted .250, .363, .505 over the last 2.5 months of the season. Honestly, Rendon, we were talking about, had an opportunity to steal the award. He hit 172. He hit 172 over those last 3 weeks, but if he delivers the last 3 weeks of the year, we're probably talking about him as the MVP.
And then we can only imagine what that does for his free agency coming up.
Oh, my God, it puts it through the roof.
Looking at that ballot, big shout-out to Arenado coming in 5. Shows how good that guy is, even on a terrible Rockies team.
He came in 6th. He didn't even come in 5th.
Oh, he was 6th?
Yeah, Acuna and Marte were 4 or 5.
Oh, yeah. So, 6th place on that terrible Rockies team. That guy's good.
No, he's one of the best players in baseball for a reason. He gets paid like one of the best players in baseball for that also a reason. Per SportsCenter in 2019, Bellinger became the first player with a 300 average, 45 homers, and 115-plus RBI since Pujols in 2009. There's your daily double for Albert Pujols for the podcast. And per ESPN Stats and Info, Bellinger won the MVP, Rookie of the Year, and Gold Glove Award all before turning 24. He's the 4th player to collect all 3 awards before turning 25, joining Johnny Bench, Fred Lynn, and Dustin Pedroia. And honestly, the fact that we saw him cry when accepting the award, that was pretty cool to me. And I don't say that in a mean way. It was good to see the emotion.
Yeah, this is a big deal. It's cool to be the MVP. You're going to be – that's awesome. He had a great year. The start to his season was outstanding. That way, both of those guys, they came out their April and May was all-time stuff. We were talking about both of them hitting 400. So
my only knock on MLB Network when they were covering the awards was, Bellinger wins the MVP. It's like one of the happiest moments of his life. How are you asking him about the Astros cheating scandal when he should just be celebrating? I had a bit of a bone to pick with that.
Yeah, I was in class, so I can't comment. But that's not. There's a time and place. That seems so obvious to say. Like this is Bellinger's moment. Talk about his. If you want to ask him about something, ask about how this particular season ended. Ask about how you guys blew a game against the Nats in Game 5 when they should not have lost that game. Ask what they should do with Kershaw going forward. Don't ask about a 2-year-old cheating scandal.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. On the qualifying offer side of things, 7 players: Garrett Cole, Anthony Rendon, Steven Strasburg, Zach Wheeler, Mad Bum, Josh Donaldson, and Marcell Ozuna all rejected their qualifying offers and are officially free agents with draft pick compensation attached to them. 2 players who did accept their 1-year, $17.8 million contract: Jake Odorizzi in Minnesota, Jose Abreu in Chicago. And Odorizzi had this to say: when it came down to it, the decision came down to pretty much me betting on myself and returning to a place I know very well and enjoyed and continue to improve on what I did last year, and then re-entering the market next offseason with a different class. This year's free agent class includes Garrett Cole, Strasburg, Wheeler, Mad Bum. But next year, Trevor Bauer, Paxton, Tanaka, Stroman, Quintana. Names aren't as big. The all-star righty turned 30 in March. He was 15-7, 3.51 ERA last year for Minnesota. Struck out a career-high 178 batters and 159 innings in his second season with the Twins. To me, I think Odorizzi definitely made the right move staying. You pitch somewhere that you're comfortable, you anchor a playoff rotation, and then bet on yourself with no draft pick compensation at 30. What were your thoughts on Odorizzi accepting?
Yeah, Odorizzi doesn't seem like a $20 million a year arm. So if he wanted that long-term commitment from a team, it would have to be at a lower AAV number. So get the big payday up front, and then if you can do it again, then maybe he does turn it. Maybe he does jump up a class if he puts out another great season. So he made the right choice. And at the end of the day, if you're happy in Minnesota, stay in Minnesota. If he really liked his time there, there's no reason to leave. If they're offering you $18 million to stay, stay.
No, I'm totally with you there. And look, it's not like 29 versus 30 is going to be a big deterrent on the free agent market for you.
No, and again, Odorizzi, I mean, he's what, the 2 starter over there? Maybe 3 if Big Mike gets back?
We'll say 1B to Barrios is 1A, depending on the match.
I think he is so behind Barrios, Chase. Barrios, the ceiling on Barrios is Cy Young. Barrios has Cy Young potential. I mean, future odds next year, take Barrios to win the Cy.
I agree. Definitely a good underdog. But just based on the statistics, you can make the argument for Odorizzi. The guy who was most likely to accept his qualifying offer and ended up doing it, Jose Abreu, at the age of 33 in January. He's back with the White Sox. Not a ton of defensive value, but was very open about remaining with the White Sox. So for that reason, he's back. Abreu was a very good hitter last year. 248, 330, 503, 33 home runs. Led the AL with 124 RBIs. And no surprise with this next guy who accepted a qualifying offer. Of the 10 guys who received them, we all thought that Jose Abreu, given that he's going to be 33 in January and is kind of a defensively challenged first baseman, we all thought he was going to be the most likely to accept the qualifying offer, and he is back with the White Sox on a 1-year, $17.8 million deal. White Sox, according to Bob Nightingale, do still want to work out a multi-year deal with Abreu, and it's really no surprise that that's the case. Last year, still absolutely mashed the ball, 33 homers. He led all of the American League with 124 RBIs, 284, 330, 503. He's averaged right around 26, 27 homers a year, 6 years in the bigs. Always is hitting around the 280s, has averaged 100 RBIs a year. I mean, he's a guy who's low-key been an absolute stud for the White Sox since he came over from Cuba in 2014. Former Rookie of the Year winner, leader in the clubhouse, and really I think a guy they needed to bring back just as a veteran presence, you know, for the Moncadas, Jimenez's of the world, et cetera, as they try to make the jump to the next step.
Yeah, there's a lot of talent in Chicago. a lot of young talent. And Moncada seems to be finally piecing together all those skills that made him that he went over the Sale trade. He was the big piece in the Sale trade. Him and Kopesh, who should be coming back next year. So they're going to roll out Kopesh, Giolito. Man, that's really good. That's a high upside one, too. That's young and high upside. With those guys, Jimenez, Moncada, you're going to want the veteran in the clubhouse. And he's been happy his whole career in Chicago. It's good. Hopefully they work something out long term because he fits there. They like him. And again, this guy, if he starts in the majors at 21, this is the best first baseman. He would have been the best first baseman that we've had all decade, and probably on the way to Cooperstown, but not so much because he showed up late.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk. Usually, a player hits their peak around 27. Abreu was played in the big 6 years, 27 through his age 32 season. He has averaged just about 30 homers and 102 RBIs a year, with a 293 average and 862 OPS. I mean, maybe it's because he has played in Chicago and that the long ball, we've had the rabbit ball and home runs have gone up across the board. But, I mean, this guy is really an unheralded superstar across baseball. Simple as that. Mr. Consistency.
Yeah. So good deal all around. If it works, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Enjoy Chicago. You ever been to Chicago, Chase?
I've never been. I was supposed to go a few weeks ago, actually, and then I had tickets to a potential Yankees World Series game. Obviously, that didn't happen, but by that point, it was too late to book a trip. So I think I'm going out for a Cubs game to celebrate our nation's birthday, Independence Day, 4th of July this year.
Funny to change from the Cascadico 4th of July talent show.
It's going to be a little bit different, but, I'll be singing Go Cubs Go at Wrigley Field, so that'll be my version of a talent show act.
I wonder if I'm going to end up back in the talent show. I'll probably try and weasel my way back. I'm probably going to host this year. It's my time.
I'm gonna throw the odds at -300 for that.
For me hosting? Yeah.
Yes.
I think I'm pretty much locked in there.
So
if I volunteer.
Yes,
who's
I
my
agree. And hosting,
co-host? Harry?
Give me
Kate Roosevelt. Ooh, that's probably her first ever mention on the podcast.
Give me a Bryce Holden, Jay Rosh, 4th of July hosting duo in 2020.
Well, I'll just make it whoever the Super DL is.
That's why I stand by my point. But a guy who turned down a qualifying offer and gave us the first big free agent signing of the offseason, Will Smith, not to be confused with the Dodgers catcher or the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the 30-year-old relief pitcher signed. That's true, I guess. That's like a very deep Colin Cowherd reference, but we can roll with it.
Well, welcome back, Mello. Can we welcome him back real quick?
Welcome back, Mello, to Portland, indeed.
I'm assuming you've also never been to Portland.
So I have never been to Portland. Have you?
No, Billy just. I actually looked into going over winter break to watch a Mello game, but I don't think it's going to work out.
So the Braves signed Will Smith, 30, the all-star closer, to a 3-year, $40 million deal that includes a $13 million option, $1 million buyout for 2023. The move comes less than a week after another former all-star reliever, Darren O'Day, was re-signed to provide the bullpen some middle-inning stability. Smith converted 34 of 38 save opportunities for the Giants this past year. His first all-star selection, the 30-year-old had a 2.76 ERA over 65 in the third innings in 63 appearances, limited opponents to a 196 batting average. Instead of accepting the Giants' qualifying offer, Smith took advantage of the multi-year deal that will allow him to pitch for his hometown team. The veteran grew up in Newman, Georgia, which is approximately 40 miles southwest of SunTrust Park. And because Smith received the qualifying offer, the Braves' cost of signing him will include their second highest selection in the 2020 MLB draft and $500,000 from the international bonus pool. Smith's agent, Jeff Berry of CAA, used the qualifying offer as leverage and told teams his client would accept the offer if he wasn't signed by Thursday. Braves bullpen all of a sudden is a really big strength. Mark Melancon and Shane Green, who they got at the deadline, Chris Martin, who they also acquired, Darren O'Day, and now Will Smith, although manager Brian Snitker said that Melancon will remain the closer for the time being. So a lot of money for a potential setup, man, but it's like what the Yankees did with Zach Britton. We know how much a guy like that can help. So my two questions for you, Bryce, are, one, where does the Braves bullpen rank in terms of the best in baseball? And two, given that the Braves are going to already lose a pick for signing Will Smith, Do you think that means that Josh Donaldson is definitely not back because they're going to recoup the pick that way? And a side note of that, do you think that means they're more likely to go all in on Mad Bum, given that they're already going to lose the pick at that point? They just say, screw it, let's go all in.
I think that Mad Bum makes a lot of sense there. And I always thought I thought he was going to end up there as a trade candidate last year, but Giants got hot right around the deadline. As far as Donaldson, I don't know if these two things are related. I didn't know if he was ever going to go back to the Braves. But the Will Smith signing in particular, one, I think great work by the agent, and that was a very smart way to use the qualifying offer, which has usually been a detriment. But now this guy's got his free agency done well before Thanksgiving. So that's always nice. He gets to go home. Always nice. And now the Braves, that's another good arm for the Braves bullpen. Just take your potent Giants players with Melanson and Will Smith. I don't know. Braves are good. Braves are big couple of years. Their young core is as good as it gets. Still talking MVP futures. I think Acuna next in the NL makes a lot of sense. Like,
yeah, I mean,
did we get to the World Series odds?
Yes, we did them last week. They were top 6.
And that was before the Will Smith thing. I think this only helps. This definitely helps the Braves going forward.
Yeah, I mean, if they get Mad Bum, to me, given how deep this bullpen is now and how good the lineup is, even if they lose Donaldson, I think if you roll into next year with Mad Bum, Soroka, Max Fried to top that rotation, even Fultonevich, if he's the 4 starter, that's a very above average 4 starter. I mean, this team all of a sudden could be the favorite to win the National League. I mean, the Dodgers are going to be tough again. The Nats, if they bring everyone back, are going to be tough, but the Braves will be a very hard out in the postseason.
Yeah, now they've had a couple of years postseason experience. One heartbreak. Was it even heartbreaking, or was it just like a one punch and they got knocked out type loss to the Cardinals?
I think it was a TKO. 10 runs in the first inning is a TKO.
Yeah, it was a TKO. The Dodgers had the heartbreak. The Braves just got knocked out. So this could be their year. Usually it takes teams a while. The Braves are really, really bad. They kind of got really bad and then came out of nowhere.
I don't think they ever – the bottom never really fell out. I think even when they were bad, they were still like a mid-70 win team.
Yeah.
Because don't forget, a lot of these young guys they have, like Acuna, Ozzie Albies, they didn't draft those guys. It was all international signing bonus. Or not even international signing bonus, just international signing pool.
Well, that's a good way to make a team.
Correct. So that's where, like, in theory, you could be a successful team for years, and as long as you crush it overseas, it doesn't matter what draft pick you have.
So there's a lesson to be learned, I guess. That if you're to stop tanking, I guess is the lesson, that you don't have to tank and you can be really good as long as you
true.
Resources. If you use the resources
all about using
you're supposed to.
Yep, all about scouting and using the right resources. A team that is going to have a high draft pick this year and may do so for years to come are the San Francisco Giants, but they have a new skipper at the helm. Giants announced Tuesday that they've signed Gabe Kapler to a 3-year contract to become the 39th manager in franchise history and the 17th in the San Francisco era. He will replace future Hall of Fame manager Bruce Bochy, who stepped down in September after 13 seasons and 3 World Series titles with the Giants. Team president Farhan Zaidi said, probably the best thing that we were looking for and the most important trait, if we could summarize it in one sentence, was someone that was capable of building trust and relationships with both players in the front office. In my experience with Gabe, and as we went through the interview process and got to learn more about him, it became clear to us that this was the person who could best execute on that. Kapler, 44, became available after he was dismissed by the Phillies last month following a rocky 2-year tenure as manager. Phillies, despite spending so much money getting Bryce Harper, Real Muto, Andrew McCutchen, etc., 161 and 163, 497 winning percentage under the 2 years under Kapler's watch. But despite all that, Zaidi still said he received unsolicited text messages from players and other people in the Phillies organization who spoke positively of their experiences working with Kapler in Philly. Zaidi also said he consulted several Giants players who had spent time with Kapler over the years. The two of them, Zaidi and Kapler, have ties as they work together in the Dodgers front office. Zaidi as GM and Kapler as Director of Player Development from 2014 to 17. He was a finalist for the Dodgers job that had previously gone to Dave Roberts in November 2015, and Zaidi was amongst those who recommended Kapler to the Phillies, getting him his first opportunity to manage in the bigs. For me personally, I think the biggest thing in baseball in 2019, given that the front office has so much to do with the day-to-day, is that your GM and your manager are on the same page. And this is a prime example of that. I think Philly is a very old-school sports city, and I think for them to adopt analytics is going to be much harder than any of us could really imagine. I think in San Francisco, they're going to be way more open to Kapler and sabermetric. And given that there is a rebuilding process, so plenty of time to grow close to these young players and kind of learn the culture in the clubhouse. So personally, given the circumstances, I like the Gabe Kapler hire. Like I said before, another Jewish manager back in the ranks. But what are your thoughts?
It's really his relationship with Farhan is huge because you want your whole organization aligned, especially up top. Kapler's, this is his second job. He's still really young to be a manager. He's still 44 years old. So I guess in a world, this is the guy that can lead this next group of Giants players. Now that they're dead, it's a team in transition. Bochy's gone. Mad Bum is probably leaving. Bochy's the only holdover that I can offhand from those World Series teams. Is there anyone left from the team besides
Brandon Belt?
I mean, was Belt on the 10, but I don't think Belt was on the 10 team.
Belt was on the 12 and 14 teams, I believe. One thing I also want to give credit to the Giants, I mean, by not trading Will Smith and Mad Bum, they now are going to have a pretty decent stockpile of picks in this year's draft.
Yeah. So, I mean, like we said, about the Braves, that's one way. That's the opposite approach. But when you take the draft picks, you'd rather have them than not. The baseball draft's always been weird. I guess the big thing is, hopefully with Kapler's relationship with that front office, he can stay there a long time. When we talked about Casey Stengel was only with the Yanks for 12 years as a manager.
Did you say only with the Yanks for 12 years?
I mean, I thought it was like 20-year job for him back then.
Don't forget though, 12 years in New York is like 30 years anywhere else.
I mean, are we going to see who's the longest tenured guy in the league now? Who's the longest tenured manager?
Trying to think.
Is it Bob Melvin?
Let me see. I'm going to look this up real quick. I know Melvin has got to be up there. Ned Yost was definitely up there.
Francona. I mean, there's a lot of turnover with these managers, and it seems to be a new trend. It might just be the trend for now, and eventually we try and switch back.
Right now, it's tied between Bob Melvin and Terry Francona.
Oh, I mean, and what are they? 6 years each?
They both took over in 2013.
So they're both going into year 8. I mean, that's not particularly long. I mean, I remember when we grew up, Joe Torre was the Yankees manager for 13 years, and I didn't think he was ever going to leave.
I think that's the reality of the social media era, though.
I mean,
criticism is at an all-time high. The front office gets involved more than ever before. I think that's just what we're going to see now.
I mean, Booney's been the man for 2 years, won 100 in both. How long do you think he has? What's his shelf life as manager? Does he have?
I mean, if Booney doesn't win a World Series after 4 years, I think maybe he's gone.
I mean, Dave Roberts. What about a guy like Dave Roberts?
I think a lot of people. I know a lot of Dodger fans who did want to fire Dave Roberts this offseason.
Yeah, after unbelievable success that guy's had. So, is it in the best interest to fire coaches all the time? I mean, you see it. I mean, what's the best organization in sports right now? The Patriots? They've had the same coach for 20 years.
Well, I would say in a similar vein to that would be the San Antonio Spurs.
Yeah, the Spurs and have been the most successful franchises of this century, and they've had one coach each. Even though last night Becky Hammon coached. You see that?
Yeah, history in the making.
That was an important note there. Good for her. I think you could have a female manager in baseball and be almost an easier transition than the other sports.
I think basketball would be the easiest, baseball would be the second easiest, football would be the hardest. And to me, in my mind, that just strictly has to do with the amount of men you have to look over.
I mean, I would say I'd say in game there's not as. I mean, I guess the tough thing in baseball would be if a woman manager went to the mound and tried to take out Max Scherzer, and he told her to sit the fuck down.
Yep.
Which he does. I mean, how would that go? But that happens rarely. Basketball, those huddles are very heated. Football, I think there's too many guys. There's just too much. I don't know. Football's weird. There've been female special assistant coaches, like special teams coaches. So that's good. But it's more of a figurehead than anything. And coach is more about managing the people as more so than the players.
No, 100%. All right, let's get into the final rundown. Pittsburgh Pirates are probably the most dysfunctional organization in baseball right now. I mean, last year between fights in the clubhouse, the Felipe Vasquez fiasco,
they're a mess.
And a historically horrible second half. They're still
recovering from the terrible Chris Archer trade.
Yep, and recovering from terrible trade. They finally brought in a general manager to help right the ship, and that was former Red Sox GM Ben Cherington. His most recent job was as the Blue Jays Senior VP of Baseball Operations. Jason Mackey of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette was on this first. As soon as he officially accepts the job, the team will issue a statement. It's been more than 4 years since Cherington was the general manager of a team. The Red Sox brought in Dave Dombrowski, and they kind of forced Cherington out from there. But Cherington, I mean, he was the guy who built that 2013 Red Sox team, signed Shane Victorino, Napoli, Stephen Drew, Koji Uehara, Johnny Gomes, David Ross, Ryan Dempster, put together one of the most memorable blockbusters in baseball history, getting rid of Carl Crawford and Adrian Gonzalez, as well as Josh Beckett to the Dodgers. Made some bad moves as well. I mean, the Pablo and Hanley Ramirez contracts were absolutely terrible. And the Porcello extension that he ended up signing, Cy Young notwithstanding, was really terrible. But did build this 2018 team, drafted Devers, Benintendi, Eduardo Rodriguez, Jan Moncada, and Kopesh, which were drafted under Cherington's watch, were used to flip Chris Sale. Personally, I think Cherington is still young, great baseball mind, and a guy with player development experience and a winning pedigree, both of which Pittsburgh desperately needs. Personally, I'm surprised he hasn't gotten the job sooner. What are your thoughts on Cherington taking the reins over in Pittsburgh?
Pittsburgh is such a mess. They're such a mess. They haven't done anything right in a long time. But that Archer trade really is gonna. I'm looking at that Archer trade. That's gonna haunt them for a while because everybody that the Rays have is excelling, and Archer's career went to the tank when he got over there. So I don't know what can he do from that point. He was good with the Red Sox, but it's really different going from the Red Sox to the Pirates because your resources are cut in half if you're lucky. I mean, the Pirates don't spend money. I mean, when you're with the Red Sox, you can make a mistake and still end up – you can make $100 million mistakes and still recover and win World Series with that roster still intact, with that nucleus, because you have a million chances. The Pirates, you make a mistake like that, you're done for the next decade. So good luck, I guess, is my big message here. I think the biggest thing for Cherington is just going to be shaping a culture. If he can do that, I think he'll be successful. But again, I think this is another example like Kapler. You need a manager out there.
Yeah, I think you need a manager. I know Derek Sheldon's a finalist there. I wouldn't sleep on John Farrell, given his history with Cherington, maybe getting a long look at this, which I wouldn't hate. I just think the biggest thing for Cherington, like Gabe Kapler, he's going to have time to make sure that this works. But I think, again, you needed to bring in a guy with player development history and who was a winner. Cherington crosses both of those boxes off. So interested to see what he's going to do in Pittsburgh. And to wrap this all up, we're going to do 2 points of a little bit of Astros drama. The first of which is, so we talked about last week how the Astros were openly using cameras to steal signs and using a garbage can. And The Athletic is now reporting that Carlos Beltran, a player on the 2017 team, and the new manager of the New York Mets, and Alex Cora, then Houston's bench coach, and now the Red Sox manager, played a key role in the sign stealing system. Cora refused to comment to the New York Post, citing the MLB investigation, and A.J. Hinch did the same thing. The MLB Department of Investigation plans to talk to both of them to try to get a fuller picture of what was done. Beltran had this to say: "I'm not concerned. There's nothing illegal about studying your opposite team. We all have the same opportunity to look out for information and tendencies. I love and respect the game. I will be a student of it and apply all the lessons." if you're Beltran here, you got to just shut your fucking mouth and not say a word.
Yeah,
Put your head
dude,
down. Do what Hinch and Cora did. Put your head down. Let the team make the statements. I mean, you're the new manager of a team in the biggest market in the world. Don't bring any more attention to yourself.
That's a really bad thing. That was a stupid thing to say. Alex Cora was stuck around as a player as long as he did because he was so good at picking up on stealing signs. If you go back and watch old Alex Cora films, like you can see him as a player in the dugout. He's always sitting next to the manager and going over the sign, which I really don't have a problem with if you're picking them up organically. Technology that's going to get these guys in trouble.
100%. So my two questions here are, one, if Alex Cora is found, seriously guilty of, being a part of this, can they punish the Red Sox, you think, for bringing Cora in? And two, Sam, who I'm staying with, brought this up. Do you think there's any chance that this leads to a situation where Carlos Beltran never manages a game for the Mets?
No, because I think the people that are going to be held responsible for this are the higher ups of the Astros. I think you can't punish Beltran, who was a player at this time, for this sort of thing. It's the front office, it's the high-ranking baseball people, and the manager of the team, because it's fell directly under their jurisdiction. Even though Cora was bench coach, that's still, this isn't above his pay grade type activity. Where if any coach is to get punished, it'll be Hinch, but the Astros are going to receive a massive fine. They're going to lose draft picks. They're going to lose international signing money. And at worst, Hinch gets a suspension. But I don't think they have the authority. I mean, I don't think they have any sort of authority to go after game checks and suspend Cora or Beltran.
I just liked how Beltran feigned innocence, and then John Boy on Twitter pretty quickly discovered videos of the banging of the garbage can while Beltran was up at the plate as an Astro.
Yeah, but that's, again, if they're banging a garbage can, that's not his fault. I mean, that's
sure, but if you feel so strongly
that's
against
a culture.
it, like Beltran
that's a culture.
was, sure, but if you feel so strongly like Beltran made himself out to be, then you tell them, don't do this while I'm hitting. He made himself out to almost be a victim of this.
Victim of cheating? Yeah, the whole thing's a mess. He should have kept quiet.
So yesterday, the Athletic then received an email where Astros urged their scouts to help them cheat. An Astros front office executives wrote about the team's desire to steal signs in an August 2017 email as the club discussed its advanced scouting plans ahead of the playoffs. The executive asked the team scouts to pursue sign stealing from the stands and suggested cameras could be used to do so. A quote was, "One specific thing we are looking for is picking up signs coming from out of the dugout. What we are looking for now is how much we can see, how we could log things, if we need cameras, binoculars, etc. So go to games, see what you can or can't do, and report your findings." A lot of scouts discussed this with executives outside of the email as well, on phone calls and in a group Slack channel. Multiple Astros scouts said they were appalled by the possibility they would be asked to use the camera and said that some scouts did indeed voice such a disagreement to management. Another scout noted a generally confounded feeling amongst the group by the overall request, saying nobody wanted to do that and take a chance of getting caught and ruining their reputation, not only as a scout, but then even further damage is what the Astros had going, given that we already know that they're using the cameras. A longtime scout outside of the Astros organization said that across the sport, asking advanced scouts to attempt to track signs is not uncommon, but the potential use of a camera was one they thought that was unacceptable and BS. Going a step further, during the 2018 playoffs, the Indians and Red Sox discovered a person connected to the Astros named Kyle McLaughlin taking pictures near the dugout. MLB investigated and said it found no wrongdoing. Even this postseason, Phil Nevin said to Alex Bregman, this report came out in the ALCS, pretty much saying, I'm going to knock your fucking hitting coach out if he doesn't stop whistling our pitcher's signs. All in all, it seems like every week we're hearing something worse and worse about the Astros. I personally can't wait to see what the MLB is going to do. But what are your concluding thoughts on all this? Because this is getting ridiculous. I mean, everything we're hearing now is just more that this organization not only condoned, but outwardly tried to cheat to win.
Yeah, it's bad. This is very bad, and it's getting worse, like you said. And am I the only person that ever took a history class? Covering up and lying always gets you in more trouble. How does no one realize this? Like, how does this happen every time someone's accused of wrongdoing? Just own your mistakes. I don't know, man. This is bad. But realistically, what do? I think the more that I really think Hinch is going to get suspended.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this to me, I think you and I might have actually talked about this, but this to me even mirrors a little bit like Sean Payton with Mountygate. Like, yes, he may not have been directly overseeing and involved in the whole thing, but at the end of the day, as the manager, as the head coach, you're the captain of the ship, and when the ship sinks, you're the one who's got to take the fall first.
Yeah, Hinch. I mean, I really think Hinch is going to be suspended because you just can't have this. It's cheating. It's cheating. It's using technologies to cheat that we've never seen before. That's part.
Yeah,
that's a part of the game. And if you're able to pick up on the signs organically with your eyes, with your ears, or more power to you. Like, this is bad. And this seems to be an organization, like you said, top down. Everyone's involved. So the people that are going to have to face the consequences for this. I don't know when it comes out, all this investigation is going to go. But I mean,
like you said,
are good. So this is our good team. So hopefully this messes them up next year.
Like you said, this is unprecedented in baseball, so we'll see what happens. Any concluding thoughts for this week's show?
Yeah, I parlayed a cross job into a big pharma interview on Tuesday. Very excited about that.
We love McCann Health.
I
work with them as well. We are rooting for Bryce to become a member of the big pharmacy, the big pharmaceuticals. Who knows what that could do for the podcast in the future? With Bryce Holden,
when you call me big.
I mean, Bryce, now that you're going to be in big pharmacy, who knows? You could be the next Balco.
And you know what? If they catch me, I'm going to own it. None of this
You're going to own it. You're going to do the right thing. You're going to own it and pay the price.
Do the right
with
thing.
Bryce Holden.
I think a Spike Lee production.
Exactly. With Bryce Holden, my name is Chase Bedorsky. This is the Underdog Sports Baseball Show. We'll see you same time next week.